Every morning, the man who would become Rome's greatest nightmare started his day by consuming a lethal dose of poison. While others feared the sting of a blade or the bitterness of a tainted chalice, Mithridates VI sat at his table and intentionally ingested arsenic, hemlock, and belladonna. This wasn't a suicide attempt, it was an insurance policy. He was turning his own blood into an antidote, transforming his body into a biological fortress that no assassin could breach. He was Mithridates of Pontus, known to history as the Poison King, and for 50 years he would bring the Roman Republic to its knees.
To understand the man, we have to look at the world into which he was born in 135 BCE. The Kingdom of Pontus was a rugged, mountainous land along the southern coast of the Black Sea, in what is now modern-day Turkey. It was a crossroads of civilizations, a place where the grandeur of ancient Persia met the intellectual fire of Hellenistic Greece.
Mithridates claimed descent from both Cyrus the Great and Alexander the Great. He saw himself as the rightful heir to the world, but his path to the throne was paved with betrayal. When he was only 11 years old, his father, Mithridates V, was assassinated at a royal banquet in the city of Sinope. The cause of death was poison. The young prince watched his father convulse and die, while the guests looked on in horror. To make matters worse, his own mother, Queen Laodice, preferred his younger brother and sought to remove Mithridates from the line of succession. Realizing that his mother's dinner table was as dangerous as any battlefield, the young prince fled into the wild. For 7 years, Mithridates lived as a fugitive in the mountains and forests of Pontus. This period of his life is shrouded in legend, but it was the crucible that forged the king. He lived off the land, hunting wild game and sleeping under the stars. It was during these years of exile that his obsession with toxicology began. He studied the plants of the earth and the venom of serpents. He observed how small, non-lethal doses of toxins could gradually build a person's tolerance. He wasn't just surviving, he was experimenting. He was creating the Mithridate, a universal antidote that he believed would make him immortal. In 1113 BCE, at the age of 18, Mithridates emerged from the wilderness and returned to Sinope. He was no longer a frightened boy. He was a tall, powerful man with a booming voice, reportedly capable of speaking 22 languages fluently. He moved with the speed and ferocity of the wild animals he had hunted.
He seized the throne, imprisoned his mother, and executed his brother. The Poison King had arrived, and his eyes were set on expansion.
Mithridates began by consolidating the lands around the Black Sea. He was a master of propaganda, presenting himself to the Greeks as a liberator from Roman taxes and to the Persians as a divine king of the East. He absorbed Colchis, Crimea, and the northern shores of the Black Sea into his empire. His wealth became legendary, fueled by the rich mines and trade routes he controlled. But as his shadow grew longer across Asia Minor, it eventually touched the borders of the Roman Republic. The relationship between Rome and Mithridates began with diplomatic friction, but quickly spiraled into total war. Rome viewed the East as a collection of vassal states to be milked for coin. Mithridates viewed Rome as a greedy, corrupt parasite. In 88 BCE, he decided to strike a blow that would make reconciliation impossible. In a single, coordinated day of bloodshed known as the Asiatic Vespers, Mithridates ordered the massacre of every Roman and Italian living in Asia Minor. Men, women, and children were dragged from temples and slaughtered. History records that 80,000 people were killed in a single afternoon. Mithridates had burned his bridges. There was no turning back. Rome responded by sending one of its most terrifying generals, Lucius Cornelius Sulla. This marked the beginning of the First Mithridatic War. Sulla was a man of iron, but Mithridates was a master of asymmetrical warfare. He used his massive fleets to harass the Roman supply lines and employed scythed chariots that could tear through infantry formations. Despite several defeats on the battlefield,
Mithridates was never truly broken.
He was like a hydra. Every time the Romans cut off a piece of his territory, he retreated into the mountains, rebuilt his strength, and returned with a new army.
Even in the heat of war, his scientific curiosity never wavered. Mithridates used his prisoners of war as human test subjects for his poisonous concoctions. He would administer a toxin, wait for the symptoms to appear, and then test his various antidotes to see which worked best. He kept meticulous journals on his findings, contributing more to the field of toxicology than perhaps any other figure of the ancient world. He was a man who lived in constant fear of internal betrayal, so he trusted only what he could control, and he controlled the very chemistry of life and death. The conflict with Rome stretched across 3 decades and 3 separate wars. After Sulla came Lucullus, a brilliant tactician who drove Mithridates out of Pontus and into the arms of his son-in-law, King Tigranes the Great of Armenia. For a moment, it looked as though the Poison King was finally finished. He was an old man now, his kingdom lost and his allies retreating. But Mithridates had a legendary resilience. While the Romans were distracted by internal politics, he staged a daring guerrilla campaign, snuck back into Pontus with a small band of loyalists, and wiped out the Roman garrisons left behind. The final chapter began when Rome sent its favorite son, Pompey the Great. Pompey didn't just want to defeat Mithridates, he wanted to erase him. He brought the full might of the Roman legions to bear, pursuing the king across the rugged terrain of the Caucasus. Mithridates, now in his 70s, was forced to flee once more, this time across the mountains to the Crimean Peninsula. Even then, he refused to surrender. He began planning an insane final gambit. He would march an army from the Black Sea, through the Danube, and invade Italy from the north, just as Hannibal had done centuries before. But his own family had finally had enough. His son, Pharnaces, saw his father's plan as a suicide mission. Fearing that the old king's madness would lead to their total destruction, Pharnaces led a military coup. Mithridates found himself trapped in his high citadel at Panticapaeum, surrounded by his own rebellious soldiers. Knowing that his son intended to hand him over to Pompey in chains, the ending of Mithridates VI is one of the most ironic moments in human history. To avoid the humiliation of a Roman triumph, the king drew a vial of fast-acting poison that he always carried in the hilt of his sword. He shared the toxin with 2 of his daughters who were with him, and they died almost instantly. Then Mithridates drank the remainder. He waited for the darkness to take him. He waited for the paralysis, the coldness, the end. But nothing happened. His decades of consuming small doses of poison had been too successful. His body, trained through years of rigorous exposure, recognized the toxin and neutralized it. The very Mithridism he had cultivated to protect himself from assassins now prevented him from ending his own life. As the rebels hammered at the doors of his chamber, the Poison King was forced to beg his Gallic bodyguard, a man named Mithridates, to run him through with a sword. The man who could not be poisoned died by the blade. When Pompey the Great finally received the body of his rival, he refused to desecrate it. Instead, he ordered that Mithridates be buried in the royal tombs of Sinope with full honors. Even his enemies respected the sheer scale of his ambition. The legacy of Mithridates lives on in the language of medicine. To this day, the practice of protecting oneself against a poison by gradually self-administering non-lethal amounts is called Mithridatism. His secret formula, the Mithridatum, remained a standard medical treatment in Europe for nearly 2,000 years, used by emperors and commoners alike. He was a man who fought the inevitable expansion of Rome longer than any other, a polyglot scholar, a brilliant chemist, and a ruthless monarch who preferred to turn his body into a weapon rather than submit to the will of others. Subscribe